Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here. It is time for the virtual coffee break. Here's my coffee. Grab your beverage and let's chat for just a minute, shall we? This coffee break is going to be all about changing your mind. And the idea for this topic came from a couple of places. The first one was that, I don't know, it's been over a year now. I did a presentation for a group of authors called Changing Your Mind About Marketing. And the whole gist of that presentation was that most of the time the problems that we have with our business, and in particular with sales and marketing, is the way that we think about those things. And in that presentation, I was offering a way to reframe the way that we think about marketing in particular, so that it's not this big hairy deal, and it becomes something that we think about more positively and more spaciously and more openly. And the whole goal of that presentation was to help people to see that most of their, if not all of their experience in marketing and sales that could have been considered negative experience was their idea of what marketing should be, their idea of what sales should be. And they were carrying with them, some kind of a construct in their mind about what marketing is. And, we all do that. We all carry these constructs around. That's kind of how our psychology works. It's like moment by moment by moment, our mind is creating a construct that we then experience as life itself, when in fact all we're experiencing is our own construct of life. And so the whole idea with changing your mind about marketing was that if you wanted to have a different experience of marketing, the place that starts is in how you think about it and what you think about it. And the second piece of inspiration for the topic today is the whole idea of that our mind is changing all the time, with or without our help. And I likened it to the weather in a past video, where if you don't like the weather in a particular moment, wait around for a little while and it will change just on its own. It's just the way that it works. And our minds and our moods and our constructs are much the same way. And the thing that came up that was kind of the inspiration, again, for the topic at this time, was the idea that when we learn something about ourselves through a test or a quiz or something like that, like the Myers-Briggs or like the Enneagram or like human design, that all of a sudden that categorization of who we are becomes kind of a self-imposed limitation, and we start to carry around a construct of who we are based on what the evaluation says about us, or what the test says. And even that understanding of who we are can change just by changing our perception of ourselves. So one of the things that I look at is that I work a lot with people who have done a lot of self-exploration, and they have this really clear idea of who they are and who they aren't. And that idea very often is something that they have created a set of limits on themselves based on what the test says. So if I'm an Enneagram number, my behavior has to line up with that number. And, any behavior outside of that is just kind of ignored or explained away in some other way. But the truth of the matter is that we can have all of the tendencies because they're human tendencies. That was one of the things that I always appreciated about the women who created the Myers-Briggs, that they didn't offer that as a way to put solid boundaries around what a person is. Because what they realized was that for each one of those continuums that they had, people were able to move along the continuum and actually in different circumstances may show up completely as a different type. And I kind of liked that idea, and in that we're not locked into being one type of thing or another. We're not locked into whatever the stars were lined up to be when, in that moment and place that we were born. We're not locked into this this concept of who we are or what our personality is that came from one of these instruments. That's not to say that these instruments aren't interesting or helpful. They can be, and I've certainly learned a lot from the ones that I've taken. And the one that I most recently have been talking about the most is probably human design. Again, I still have a pretty wide berth around human design and its origins. As far as my own understanding of it is concerned, it just seems like the way that it was brought into understanding is, I don't know, pretty fantastic story if you ask me. But what I found is that the things that I've learned from that, the practical applications of them, have been helpful. So I'm not going to just throw the baby out with the bathwater here and say that these understandings are faulty. But I am going to say that we're not locked in. One of the things that I think we need to guard against is, putting a freeze frame around whatever letters or numbers you are according to a certain test, and saying I am only this and I can't be the other, right? Because quite honestly, we can display characteristics of all of the different types on all of the different tests, and a lot of it just has to do with our frame of mind in that moment, right? So there are a lot of times when I can show up extroverted. There are a lot of times when I can be energized by social situations and not drained by them. There can be times when I can show up, and my sensitivities aren't as out of the out of the ordinary as they are at other times. So there are some times when I am highly sensitive, and then there are other times when I'm not, and a lot of it just has to do with the mindset that I am in that moment. So when I'm talking about changing your mind, I think one of the things that I'm asking is, I think it's wise for all of us to hold on to those concepts of who we are very loosely, and not be so defined by those things that we can't have a more full experience of life. Like, if I want to experience things that an Enneagram in another number than the one that I have experiences, I'm not limited to that one number that I tested for. So getting back to the idea of changing your mind about life in general, about the way that you are, about who you are as a person, our mind automatically changes from moment to moment to moment. And the thinking that we have, and the consciousness, the level of consciousness that we're in at any given time. All of those things contribute to the moment-by-moment experience that we have of who we are and what the world is and what's going on in the world in that moment. If you want to change your mind about that, one of the things that you can do is you can just shift into another level of understanding or awareness or consciousness. In my case, one of the things that I like to do is I like to pay attention to what I'm paying attention to. So a lot of times if I'm in a real state of, confusion or overwhelm or whatever, a lot of times I just have to look at, what am I paying attention to in this moment? And in that one exercise, my attention automatically shifts into another level of awareness because I'm aware of being aware. And that level of awareness changes the thinking that happens. And when the thinking changes, the experience changes. If you want to change your mind about who you are and about life itself and about your experience here, there are ways to learn how to do that. You're not stuck with what the test says you are, and you're not stuck with the perceptions that you've carried so far in life itself. So those are my messages for today. I appreciate your time and your attention, as always, and I hope that this has been uplifting in some way. I'll be back again tomorrow with another coffee break. So long.